We'll call it at 6:02 of the North Smithfield Budget Subcommittee at 6:02. Quick roll call, Fatima, just really quick.
Okay, Christine Charest.
She told me that she was unable to make it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Bill Connell.
Here, present.
And Jim Lombardi.
Present.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next up on our agenda, we have the organizational meeting, which this is. Do we need to do anything as far as the organizational meeting? I mean, it's down as an agenda item. Is there anything we need to do?
I thought, was it elect
All for
president?
nominations.
Yeah, okay. We have an organization. Mr. Chair, I guess you would, as a school committee chairman, you would call you'd call for the elections, right?
Well, I'll call it I'll call for nominations for chairman. I'll elect Bill Connell. Okay. Are there any further nominations? Any further nominations? Any further nominations? I'll cast one vote for Mr. Connell. He is the chairman. I know that. Oh, you take over. Actually, go ahead.
No. You continue. I think we have to vote. You and me have to vote, right? Because we're here.
No, I've cast the vote because there's no other nominations.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'll continue. I'm going to look for the election. I'm going to now call for nominations for a vice chairperson.
I didn't talk to Ms. Charest, but I'm going to nominate Ms. Charest, and if she doesn't want it, I will take it at that. We'll deal with the next meeting. So
Yeah,
I'll nominate Ms. Charest.
Yeah, Ms. Charest was the chairperson last time, and I think she's a good choice to be nominated again for this one. So.
Okay, so I'll nominate her.
Okay, so I'll second that. Any further nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll just vote. All in favor of Christine Charest?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous. Okay, so we have myself as chairperson, Ms. Charest as vice chairperson. That FY22 school department budget. We have the proposed budget paperwork, which we have. Lisa, is this your time to speak to us, or any comment, or superintendent on any comments on item number 6, the school department budget?
So typically what we would do in the past I would sort of go through the budget, give a top-down overview, and we have our department heads, our directors, and our principals here for any detailed questions that you may have.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So do you want to present now, or just rely on what we've looked at already in the binders we reviewed?
It's your call. I'm happy to go through the executive summary and highlight some of the strengths and the weaknesses, and what we're certain of and what we still are uncertain regarding.
Okay, let's go through that. Briefly. Sure. Let's take some time on that, because I think having just had the state's budget just enacted late in December, and now the governor putting together a new budget now. I know she has to march to put it in. That creates a certain amount of uncertainty right there. So knowing that, where do we stand?
Okay, so why don't I'm going to switch over and share a screen.
Sure.
All right, so again, just briefly, as with every budget that we've presented, we try to keep it as conservative as possible. We do understand the fiscal responsibilities and the strains that budget increases cause with the town budget. So we project as much as we can, and we just run the organization as efficiently as possible. So our budgets are always conservative. They're always status quo, where we've moved beyond the point where we've introduced a number of new programs, and our focus this year, as it was last year, is just improving what we already have in place. Now, personnel is an area that it is our largest expense. And what we've done over the years, and I have charts to back it up, to show you that we have actually reduced the amount of personnel within the district based on enrollment and program needs. We do purchase wisely. So we don't just purchase through the state master price agreement, but we have a number of other agreements in place. For example, the Northwest School Consortium, of which North Smithfield is a member, joining Burrillville, Lincoln, Smithfield, and Cumberland, to collaborate as much as possible. So whether it's the superintendent or the assistant superintendent or the finance directors or the technology directors, we're always in close communication with our neighbors, and we collaborate on training, we collaborate on professional development, program development, and where we can, we also collaborate on purchasing. So rather than North Smithfield go out for a contract, post an RFP for just our district, our numbers, we always look to join with our neighbors, whether it's a statewide consortium or purchase, we have those agreements as well, or if it's even just a regional one with our neighbors. The Northern Rhode Island Collaborative is an organization of 12 districts in the northern part of the state that have pooled our resources to provide high need special ed services. And in doing that, we tried to do this at a cost savings. We have joint purchasing contracts throughout, and the Bradley Partnership is one of our private-public partnerships in which we have a number of special ed students with, significant needs that in the past we would have to have them take a bus, go to a remote location, and instead we've housed it at the high school. And the tuition is at a reduced rate. We do not have transportation expenses, and it keeps our kids closer to home, actually at home, within our own community. Likewise, there isn't very much anymore that we call on vendors or we outsource. So whether it's facilities or technology or professional development, we rely very heavily on the tremendous expertise within our own district. So, for facilities, for example, there would be times in the past that we may have had to take out a $40,000 contract to do a renovation in a part of the high school, which is now something that we routinely do in-house with our own staff for just the cost of material. So we save a significant amount of money wherever possible. Likewise, we plan very carefully, whether it's scheduling or projects that we've been able to keep our staffing lean. We do very, very, very infrequently have to dip into overtime because everything is very tightly scheduled and organized by central office, by the schools, and by all of our departments. Now, we did have additional challenges this year, which also will flow into next year to a degree. So this year, we did have to purchase additional cleaning and personal protection equipment. We did do significant upgrades to our ventilation, our HVAC systems within our schools. We performed some significant upgrades to our technology last year when we were on full distance learning, and this year as we rely on the technology heavily. But the important part of this is that everything we purchased, everything we did, except for the cleaning and the disposable PPE, our HVAC systems, our technology, everything we've done is to outlast COVID. So it wasn't just making a $10,000 or $100,000 purchase because COVID dictated it. Is we would make $10,000 or $100,000 purchase because COVID dictated, but it would also be something that we use and we need 2 years, 5 years, 10, 20 years in the future. So I'm very proud, very happy of the way we've handled this challenge, especially fiscally. We do have expected increases in the budget. So, salary is 58% of our total budget. And, so we do anticipate an increase in salaries. We anticipate there will be a cost of living, there will be increases to benefits. We do have changing demographics within the district so that we have and will continue to have to make additional investments in special education and social and emotional wealth and health welfare, in intervention. So all of these things that we need to have in place to uplift our most needy students, we're making those investments. And, and honestly, that does have an impact on the budget because there are just so many additional needs that we have to meet on a daily basis. So when it comes down to putting everything together, and I'll go through the department, we'll be requesting from the town an overall 2.9% increase to this year's budget, which, to be honest, is significantly lower than, at least since I've been here, have requested before. Typically, we would go through the budget process and we would have to trim hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of needs or requests just to get to 4%. This year, in particular, and a lot of that has to do with the retirement incentive. So we did have a number of top step teachers retire, which brought down some of the overall increase cost to the district. Along with other efficiencies and other changes and other modifications we put into place, we're not asking for over the cap of 4%. We feel comfortable with 2.9% in order to enable us to do the job that we need to do. Now, to break that down,
Mr. Superintendent, can I ask?
yes, at any time. Yeah.
I had a question. Would you want me to wait, hold to the end, or I can? Okay.
Well,
I would just
keep this as a dialogue.
Okay. I don't have many. One thing I just noticed, because I looked at the on the increases. It's just appropriate. The increase in the benefits refers to the premium increases because of an increased amount of insurance payouts in FY 2019 and 2020. Was that like an uncharacteristically high spike in payouts? I mean, or is it related to COVID, do you think, or was it just something that happened?
No, we actually, along with the town itself and some other districts and towns, went into a bit of a intervention with our insurance providers, the trust, because of the increasing amount of claims. I don't know if Lisa or Alicia, if you would like to elaborate on that.
So our experience overall in comparison to other districts in the trust is high right now, but that can vary each year depending. I mean, we could have one expensive case for cancer or something like that, and that could spike our experience for the year. So that is why we're high, but overall, we usually start the year with about 9%. Last year, we took a chance and we started out with an increase of 7%, and we came in just slightly under that. This year, because we really don't know what's going to happen with all the COVID claims and whatnot, we're starting out with a 9%, which is the usual place that we start with for an increase. So we're hoping it comes in much lower than that, and we always adjust our budget towards the end in the spring when we do get the actual rates.
Yeah, and typically the trust issues an adjustment to the rates Lisa, if you could remind me, April or May?
Usually the beginning of April.
Okay.
All right. So I know there's nothing that we can. I guess the only thing I was thinking was, and I'm not really expecting this. There's nothing like we're not seeing anything that would make us think that there's a problem with the buildings or anything like that's air quality or anything like that that's leading to these. These are just we're just getting a spike in claims because various reasons, just random. This is just occurring these past couple of years.
Right, and we always, as the year goes on, after the budget has been approved by the school committee and it goes to the town council and we go through the budget committee on the town side, anytime that we have more data and an adjustment to actual, we notify them right away and deduct that from our overall ask. So if the trust comes back and says, look, you know, we anticipate you'll be at 7%, we're not going to leave the 9% ask. We will adjust it down to 7% and you know, update all the budget figures accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
So the other piece with state aid, and you know, we were fortunate that the state aid this year held, and I know the town did, and so appreciative to the town council to put that contingency fund aside because because up until about a month ago, we didn't know what our state aid was going to be. There is an anticipation for next year that the state aid will remain stable or slightly increase. But again, that is still up in the air. Nothing has been determined. The only thing that we have been assured is that aid to education will remain a priority, and they're going to try very hard not to make any deductions. So what we are looking at is we're anticipating an increase in state aid, which we hope sticks, but that's not guaranteed. One of the things that we do have some legislation coming up for this year is because we've had in all districts across the state have had a decrease in enrollment because there's been an increase in applications for homeschooling, that does affect our funding formula. But the legislation that is in the works is to have a hold harmless for this COVID year for decreases in enrollment based on students switching over to home teaching, homeschooling. The other piece that they're looking to have as hold harmless is that this year, with federal support, we've been able to offer free lunch to everybody, regardless of if they're at a socioeconomic level and qualify for free lunch. Everybody qualifies for free lunch. But on the flip side of that, we do require parents in every year, we collect application forms for free lunch. Because everybody is getting lunches, our application collections are way down. So again, when you look at funding formula, there is a poverty component, which is based on the percentage of free and reduced lunch. Because we're not collecting as many of the applications, we would normally take a hit on that line item when it comes to the funding formula. Again, legislation is going through to, just like the switch to homeschooling, not having as many applications for free lunch, there's a hold harmless piece on that. They will look at the previous year. So we're not expecting a hit on that. Although, you know, I need to make a push with our parents to bring in lunch forms because we do look at those free and reduced lunch numbers for other grants and other possibilities outside of state aid. So we're looking to get that information back in. So with the increase in state aid, 160,000 that we're anticipating, with the items that we put aside in the budget, that brings us to where we're looking for the town appropriation increase of 2.6%. And again, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. No, the 2.8, 2.9. And again, this is in anticipation of additional state aid. And again, we're hoping that sticks. So for salaries and benefits, we've calculated the percent change. And again, this salaries and benefits is the vast majority of our budget. So even if you factor in standard raises, cost of living, what we're anticipating for medical, there will be an increase. What the other piece with staffing is that if you look at this 6-year staffing list, back in FY17, we had 238 employees. In 18, we had 242 employees. 19, I think, was the year I began. And that's when we started making adjustments based on the enrollment in programs. And so we went from 242 to 236, brought down the number of staff to 226, held it steady at 226. And this year, next year, we're going to request an increase in one position. And that is for an additional special educator at North Smithfield Elementary. And again, that is reflective of our changing demographics, our changing enrollment, and the need to really front load special education services as early as we can, so the students, when they hit middle and high school, you know, they're comfortably transitioning into you know, other programs as well. So that's the only increase we're looking for this year. So when it comes down to departmentally, there is an increase in central office of 2.24%, 65,000. And we'll go through it for a couple of these with a little bit more detail as to why that increase is there. And I'll also flag some of the areas of concern that we just don't know at this stage. Facilities budget has been level funded for the past 4 or 5 years, or probably even before I came on board. And I have to, again, give kudos to Mr. Seepy and to the maintenance and the custodial department. They have been able to do so much with the same amount of money that we've spent over the past multiple years. We put in for a $50,000 increase to the facilities budget, mainly to continue their work with the renovations. So all of the classroom renovations, the new tiles, the furniture, the new paint, the buildings are looking fantastic, and we still have so much more to do. So we are requesting on that line item $50,000 dedicated towards building and classroom renovations. We do have an increase in technology. And that is, again, technology has been level funded for, I don't know, again, 4 or 5 years. And with COVID has become an increased reliance on technology. And we have discovered and are using some amazing software systems and services and packages that our teachers want to continue to use after hybrid and distance learning. It's just good resources for learning. So we do have a continuation of some additional software licenses to be used by students and teachers. The other piece is that we do have some money in there. Again, this is part of the increase for some hardware. Our classrooms, you know, North Smithfield 12 years ago was so ahead of the curve, and they put smart boards into every classroom. Our teachers and our students have become so accustomed to teaching with a smart board, and you know, the manipulatives and the visualization and the engagement that a smart board gives. It's a very powerful tool. And again, North Smithfield was one of the first districts in the state to make investments and utilize this powerful classroom technology. We haven't updated them. The majority of our smart boards are now 12 years old. We have requested in the capital budget over the last several years to update our smart boards, but that line item has never been approved. So we really have to, again, it's in the capital budget request for next year as well, and that I'll be presenting at the next school committee. But we've also put in some funds into the technology department, technology budget, to really dig in and start replacing some of the smart boards. As it is now, a couple of our rock star teachers who are using the smart boards all the time, we're having technical problems. They just stopped working. And as far as we can tell, the reason they stopped working periodically, they work fine and then they stop, is that it was the last Windows update. These things are 12 years old. They were out at the time of Windows 95. The fact that they're running now under Windows 10 is a miracle. But we're running out of time on that. So we're going to have a lot of defunct smart boards unless we make a push to replace them. Now, curriculum has a reduction. So curriculum, again, it's always targeted. It's always planned multiple years in advance. The past 2 years, we've invested more on the curriculum side because of state legislation mandating that all schools, all districts have high quality curriculum. And specifically, it was the target of math and English language arts. Buying new curriculum is very expensive. Claire Arnold and her team, teachers, they went through the ratings of the different curriculum systems. They tested them out and they came to a consensus. And North Smithfield moved very fast. And within that 2-year period, last year and this year, have updated the ELA and mathematics curriculum K through 12 across the district. So we've met the federal requirement, which I think has to be this has to be in place within 2 or 3 years. I think we have 2 years left on it. That doesn't mean we're done with curriculum because we also have to update social studies and science curriculum. The reason why there's a reduction for next year in curriculum, Claire Arnold in her team, they're not ready to purchase a social studies and science curriculum because the Department of Ed has not published social studies or science curriculum standards. So those are being revised. Yes, there are next generation science standards, but the Department of Education has not gone through and assessed all the different science programs that are available, make the recommendations on which ones they consider high quality and which ones they would like us to purchase. And social studies curriculum is being revised. So it's going to include more civics, but we don't have the guidance for that. So we're not going to go ahead and purchase curriculum unless the Department of Ed has assessed them, approved them, signed off on them, because again, it's too expensive for us to go through and purchase something that we think is great, but for whatever reason, maybe the Department of Ed doesn't.
No, I think that part is an easy sell. I mean, it's very cool. They haven't put we had higher curriculum because we had to get the high quality curriculum. We have reduction because we're waiting for the department. I mean, I think that's an easy sell. I really do. I could see. Okay, I'll let you finish. I had one question about the facilities, but I'll let you go with.
Go ahead. If you want facilities, if you have the question on that, yeah.
Well, not even so much a question. It's just that I'm just thinking. It's not a question. I'm just thinking of, where pushback and might come from. And when I looked at that, one of the things I was thinking was, I understand that we haven't had an increase in the facilities budget for a while, but there might be pushback by people saying, there hasn't been an increase, but you've been having, we've been utilizing money from the bonds. We've been getting the bond money and everything. The bond money,
which is done.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I wasn't entirely sure. I assumed it was.
Right.
It is done now.
Yeah. So the other thing too with that, and this will also dovetail with the capital expense budget. We do have a request from the town for as part of the capital to make continued investments in right-approved projects. So the town and the school, we have a joint revolving fund that we use for right-approved projects, warm, safe, and dry projects, and of which we still have significant amount of projects to do, updates in the school. And we don't have the bond right now. Our focus was, there was a tremendous amount of focus on the science labs, on the addition, on the those big projects. Alan and his team are ready to tackle a lot of other things right now. And the thing holding them back would be to have the funds for the raw materials in which to do the renovations, of which some could fall under the warm, safe, dry and be eligible for reinvestment. But we can dive down into the line items of facilities if as required, because I can very easily we can justify every line in there and what we're able to do with it.
Thank you.
All right, so you see here a tremendous decrease in pupil personnel services, that's special education, English language learning. And, I have to again give kudos to Suzanne, her department. One of the things that we do have, we have a great special ed program. And one of the things is that because our program is so respected, we do have a number of people who move into town with students with special needs because they know they can get service in North Smithfield. What does happen, though, is that we do have students who have needs that are so far beyond anything that we can provide in district that we do have to look at specialized services. And that's and pay an out-of-district tuition, which some of these specialized services, believe me, are intense. They can run anywhere from $60,000 to $130,000 a year, along with transportation to get to the out-of-district placements, along with, and we've had students who have required a one-to-one nurse to be with them the whole time, which is paid for by the school department. So right now we have last year we had about 19 high need special ed students out of district. This year we have 16. Susanna's done a great job of trying to bring students back, to bring students into the Bradley partnership so that they're with us at the high school receiving some high need services. We do save a tremendous amount on transportation in those cases. We did have a student or two who reached maximum age and aged out of the system. We do have one of our students who required a one-to-one nurse. We no longer require 3, it's now 2 one-to-one nurses. So again, we're doing everything we can to provide our students the services that they need, no matter how extreme those services are, but also to keep an eye on the finances because of the very high cost for some of these students in placement. So, but my caveat on this is that while we're looking at a significant reduction for next year, this could change tomorrow, this could change next week, next month, this could change over the summer. We could have a family move in with a student or students who have needs that are so far beyond anything that we can provide for. So again, this is a line that fluctuates wildly. So, and then and unfortunately, and this is the thing that always I find ironic or gets me. We're a school system. Our job the schools, it's the education. It's our schools as departments that have the lowest budgets. So the high school has just a slight decrease next year over what they had this year. The athletics budget is larger than the high school budget. There's a slight increase in the athletics budget because we anticipate that the interscholastic league fees and dues and what we have to pay coaches will increase. So we've accommodated for that. The middle school budget is remaining static at $67,000. The elementary school budget we've increased it $15,000. basically because this absorbs what used to be Hallowell, which is rolled into the middle school, into NSES. And then if you look at the population, NSES is actually our largest school with our lowest budget. So we made an adjustment, at least to bring NSES into the middle school into alignment. So rather than go on, the information is here. I just want to highlight a couple of areas of potential concern, and also that we're proud to see happening. Transportation is our concern. All right, and if you look at, and this is FY18 to projected FY22, the transportation line, we're up to $175,000, $1,700,000 some odd thousand in transportation, which goes up significantly every year. Where you see the drop over this year, that was the year we switched to distance learning. That was last year. And we didn't pay for busing while we were on lockdown. So here's my concern with transportation. We've projected a standard increase, but our contract with our current provider is done. We have to go out for an RFP for transportation services. There are very few bus companies in the state. And what has happened last year with districts whose contracts ran out, they went out for an RFP. The bus companies did not respond with your standard 3-year contract, 2%, 3%, 3% increases every year. They came back with, the first year is a 17% increase, followed by 3%, 3%. And the reason they've done that is because all the bus companies lost significant amount of revenue during the lockdown period. And so they're trying to make up the lost revenue from the previous year. So our contract with our provider is done at the end of this year. We are looking at the RFP now. We're looking at to see what our options, but we don't know what the new contract will come in at. I severely doubt it's going to come in as 2%, 2%, 2%, 3%, 3%, 3%. I really anticipate that any company that responds to us that first year, it's going to be massive. And then they will stabilize. Again, I'm not going to talk about the legality of this, or there has been discussion among other districts. Certainly with the Department of Ed, certainly at the state level, to get some controls on this. But that is a huge unknown for us.
I might make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, maybe Mr. Chairperson, maybe that's something we want to mention at our next meeting. The school, I think that sounds like it's something just beyond the budget committee to handle. That sounds like something maybe a school committee should at least be, if we want to do a resolution or take some action. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, we're not going to solve it by ourselves, but if there's maybe something that we can do in conjunction with other districts, again, just shooting from the hip. That just sounds.
And this is something that we've been working on as that Northwest Consortium, as a group of districts to sort of go through with one voice. But it's also something I can tell you that it's come up with the state superintendent's meeting. So yes, we're looking at some sort of control on this.
Didn't Cumberland have? Didn't Cumberland have a very? Cumberland went through a very tough, a very challenging time contract negotiation. I understand with their bus company recently. That's what I was told.
Yes.
To put it generously, challenging.
Yes.
And so you're saying, and I used to think, well, glad I'm not Cumberland, but you're saying we'll be in the same situation that they were last year, essentially.
We could be. And again, it's not like there's a lot of competition among the companies.
Yeah.
And again, there is kind of a carving up of the state. And I can tell you last year when a lot of the districts went out for the RFPs, they came back with the 17% increase, and it was their current company was the only one that bid for the next 3-year contract. They didn't compete with each other.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
again, I'm just saying this is what's out there right now,
Okay.
and this is an area of concern.
Okay, it's been identified. We can't solve it tonight. We'll just.
Right.
I'm glad you brought it to our attention.
From a budgetary standpoint, this could throw everything off. Likewise with statewide transportation, which is a statewide contract. All districts use them. There have been some extraordinary swings in rates, unanticipated swings in rates. We would start a year with an anticipated rate for statewide transportation, which is, our special ed population. We do, there are separate transports to private and parochial schools, anyway.
Well, let me leave it like this. It's a tough. I get it. It's a potential budget buster, for lack of a better term. I think it'd be great to have. I'll defer to Mr. Chairperson on this, but probably good for the whole school committee to hear this. And if you have some thoughts at the next school committee meeting on what we as a district can do in conjunction, is there anything we can do to support you or to be proactive about this? Because as I said, I know a few districts had that problem, and it sounded like it was a terrible situation in some of those districts this past summer. And again, I often say I'm glad we're not them, but then I realized, it never just occurred to me it's going to happen to us too. But yes, it is.
Yeah.
I get. I mean, it's not us versus them, but again,
Right.
I know some of the districts had issues. Yes,
Right.
not bad.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow up?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Lombardi.
Superintendent, so I guess one in this area, have they ever, I mean, I know they did the statewide model for bidding, but do they have statewide numbers? Have they already, I mean, can we piggyback off the state in any way? Or in the alternative, maybe we should go out sooner rather than later, because at this point, I don't think we can extend, right? In the current contract, is there an extension provision?
There is.
For how long?
2
3 years?
individual years.
What is it?
There are 2 additional individual years that we can extend, next year and the year after.
Okay, so has anybody reached out to them?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah.
They want,
So,
and I understand, because you've at least told me that, they do have some costs and different things. So have they made an offer to us to extend? Or if you want to just, again, I don't want to get in negotiations. If we get into negotiations, I don't want to have a conversation about it. But
we should have more information coming up. We'll fill you in. Again, we are going to explore the possibility of extending versus a straight-on RFP. And we'll weigh what's best for the district and what's best fiscally and the best way to proceed.
I'm going to just again suggest, again, subject to your input, Mr. Superintendent and Chair Lombardi, that we put this down at our next meeting for the school committee. And I will, not to belabor the point, I will let you all decide, should this be something we put down as a closed, do we get to are we talking about something where we're in closed session or open? I always like to do things open, but if we're actually going to get, as Mr. Lombardi pointed out accurately, if we're going to get really deep into this, we probably might want to at least consider going into closed, because that's going to be an open, videotaped open meeting. So,
Yep.
I mean, this is two, but this
right.
is, yeah. So we'll stop. I'm good if stopping the discussion at this point, if that's on that issue, because I think I think going beyond that, we have to, we're going to get some more nitty gritty that we may want to have everybody on board with.
Absolutely. So, and just the last thing that I want to highlight is that our out of district tuition. Now, this is something that we started battle with. It's a battle. It's a battle for students and dollars. Because every student that leaves us, we're paying tuition. We lose money. The students that stay with us, we essentially keep their tuition, and we can use that money to reinvest in programs and make our schools better. So it's very painful when students leave us and they go to other district career and technical programs, and we're now on the hook of paying tens of thousands of dollars in tuitions to another school district. So, we started our marketing, we have our CTE programs, and you can see, we did reach a crisis point back in FY16. There were 39 students we were paying tuition for. And again, this isn't the special ed tuitions. This is career and technical programs. Charters aren't in here. Or charters? No, charters are in the numbers are in this one. We were at 39. Year after, we went to 52, 61, 78. And at that point, we're looking at, as a district, we're paying $832,000 for 78 kids not to go to our schools. All right, when that's painful, because when you look at our schools, the NSPS, for example, had a tuition, the entire building had a budget of $17,000, and here we are paying $800,000 for people to go to other districts. So we started the marketing, we opened our CTEs, and now we dropped down to 73 students. We're at 74. I think that number has just changed, and we're projecting 70 students. So we're projecting a declining rate, numbers of students that we pay tuition for. Now, this number for next year, this is a projection. I do know of families that have pulled their students out of parochial high schools, and instead of paying the tuition of $15,000, they're saying, well, North Smithfield is one of the highest ranked high schools in the state. Why not, instead of paying that tuition, have them go to North Smithfield, which is fantastic. That's the message we want to promote. But we're most likely going to have some students who may not, some families who would have chosen to go to one of these private or parochial schools, but given a hybrid schedule or distance learning, they're not going to pay the same amount of tuition. So there may be an uptick on that next year. We don't know right now. But the overall trend is to stabilize and start decreasing. And we definitely want to keep our kids, and we don't want to send these other organizations or towns this level of money. So that's kind of the top-down overview. Lisa and our directors are here, and our principals. If you have specific questions about their schools, their programs, the adjustments in their budget, what they wish they had versus what they do have, this is, they're here for your questions.
Well, I'll speak up just for myself, and I know how you feel, but yeah, the questions I had, I asked, so I think you pretty much answered them, and I'm sure there'll be things that'll come up, but the only thing I might know, it'd be great to know it'd be great to know some of the, what some of the wish lists are, but we always seem to be talking about not getting to the wish lists. So I'll just say I'm open to hearing wish lists, but at this point, the budget is what it is. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of wish list stuff included in it. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Sure. Yes, Mr. Lombardi.
So what would it cost should we give an option to add foreign language to the middle school? What's the cost there? I know that's been brought up a number of times. Maybe this is the year that we ask for it and get it.
Ms. Arnold, any thoughts on that?
Or whatever program you feel is out there that we may, if there's
I think we would need some more lead time when it comes to making this, but John or Claire, if you want to,
John, do you want to answer this? I know we did have a world language teacher, a foreign language teacher for years, and that there were actually scheduling reasons that John will be able to answer, I think, better than I would.
Sure. For us, the reason we don't have foreign language at the middle school has not been because of money or because of lack of funding for the building. It's when we were before the middle school opened, we were at the high school. It was an 8-period day. So kids had more choices of electives. When we got to the middle school, we were a 7-period day. And because of the popularity of our music program, a lot of electives are competing for the same kids. So what ended up happening was at the middle school level, a lot of kids had to choose between, let's say, band and foreign language, and they couldn't do both. We are in a couple of years, a year or so, going to have an opportunity for some restructuring at the middle school level based on where the numbers are going and what our teams are going to be looking like. So there's a nice fit to bring that back in a year or so. I don't think next year is the year for it because we kind of blow up some other things that we're doing, but it's definitely on the radar and it's definitely consideration where the first thing we need to do is make it accessible to kids and then go looking for the funding. And right now we can't do both, if that makes any sense.
No, fair enough. We want to, we want to listen to any concerns, any even increases in the budget. And obviously there's no promises made, but if there's something somebody wants, then let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Connell?
That program killed itself. Like kids just didn't sign up for it. So we got to the point where we had like 5 or 6 kids because they were taking other things. Now, again, if we could give them 2 choices and they could take 2 things, I'm sure it would be wildly popular. I bet it would be a lot of kids' second choice, but it wasn't a lot of kids' first choice.
or if we cut music down from a full year program to a half year or a quarter program, but that also has its other issues with that. So
Yeah, I'm not saying that out loud on a recording.
I was
no,
going to say,
I'm just saying we can choose
as long as
between
I'm
music
not
and
saying
foreign
that, you can
language.
say it.
What is North Smithfield going to choose?
Well,
But the popularity and the commitment to our music program is unique as far as districts surrounding us or any districts in the area. And that does restrict kids from what they can do. Now, again, a lot of them, they're fine with that. But as far as opening up other opportunities, that's probably the program that would get eaten into.
Okay, great, thank you.
okay.
I mean, and that even becomes a scheduling issue with the high school. So we have these amazing CPE programs, but how much room do you have in the CPE program? Because we have high school students taking 4 years of music. That doesn't happen anywhere else.
Right.
So, they're just a limited amount of time to squeeze in all this good stuff.
Let me just say this, to everybody here, I know as the participants, I think everybody has worked here or is familiar with this, with the district. We try to be supportive of each other, and I think that we all get along and work pretty well together. It's not like, we all work along. I think what I'm saying is I think people are free to speak and say what they want. So if there is some real wish list of somebody say, look, we don't have the budget for this, but we'd really, really like to do that. Forward it and let's at least get it on the agenda for discussion. Okay.
Mhm.
So don't feel like, when I said about, we don't have much in this budget for a wish list, I didn't mean to discourage anybody from coming forward and say, look, I'd really like to do this. It'd be a really good idea. Here's what I'd like to do, or we'd like to do. Don't be afraid to come forward with that. And we'll certainly look at it and at least see what can be done. So I just want to make that atmosphere, make sure that's the atmosphere. People aren't afraid to come and say, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that. Don't be afraid.
And I can tell you, we do have multi-year priorities and plans, and as opportunities arise and this becomes the right time. I know, just if you want to extend this meeting by another hour, just ask Claire about math and how she would like to restructure and what she would like to do. You're welcome.
Only if Claire has a slideshow ready. I shouldn't say that if I do.
Yeah, and honestly, I think as far as like expanding programs, this isn't necessarily the year to be thinking about it. We've been through so much in the last year with COVID that our priority is actually trying to get back full in person and looking at where our deficits are, or where our students are achieving, and how we're going to implement curriculum aligned to their needs based on, hybrid teaching and distance learning from last year. So I don't necessarily think that off-core programming is where our heads are right now. That just wouldn't be a priority. Building interventions and supports are always a priority for me. So you'll probably be hearing from me.
Well, and that makes sense. Again, the biggest thing I didn't want. Did anybody else want to chime in on that, or are we all good? I mean, it makes sense. And I know that. I know that there's talking about, there was the story in the Breeze, I think, that made it about, one. It was I thought a little bit blown out of proportion, but again, it was mentioned that we talked about deficits that some of the students were suffering this year as opposed to last year because of the distance learning. That's just natural. That's everywhere. So you're right. I catching all the kids, catching up is, for lack of a better word, the priority. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Superintendent, for your presentation. Are you all, Mr. Superintendent, are you finished with your presentation? Or your
Oh, I
overview?
think everybody wants me to be finished with my presentation.
Sure. No, I was following along in the budget book, and I think it's, I think the budget book we have is very well done, as usual. And I think that you've really articulated, though, I think the book articulates what the changes are and why. Well, sometimes we expand why they're there. You sometimes have to elaborate on why the changes are there. I told you I think the pushback's going to be. I do think the busing is something I could see being a real issue that honestly I should have, because I know what's going on elsewhere, but I didn't think it was going to be a problem here. But yeah, it's statewide. So yeah, I think we should definitely look at that in the next in our next general meeting. And okay, that's just my thoughts. I'm open. Okay, so if that's it for the school department budget, that's it for items. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about item 6, the school department budget? Okay, then we're on to item 7. Hearing no other discussion, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I want, motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks. We're adjourned. Thanks everyone for all your work and efforts.